you think you guys are right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think we got a bunch of guys who are eager to learn. We've obviously got a bunch of new faces in that room, a lot of young guys. The description would be guys that are eager to learn, but we still got a ways to go with technique, fundamentals part of the game. What I have enjoyed is seeing those guys come to work every day with the right mentality. Guys feeding off each other, pushing each other has been something that's been cool to see so far. But those guys are eager to learn, they want to grow, and that's all you can ask for.
How would you say spring has gone for Mike Matthews, and where's he grown since last year?
He's took a jump in just his day-to-day process. Like he comes to work with a like mentality every day, like to want to get better. I think there's still a ways to go in the consistency area. I think that happens naturally as a young player, with him being the second year in his offense. But what I have seen and what I have enjoyed is the way he competes every single snap, which is a jump from what he was as a true freshman. He's one we're gonna count on. He's one we're gonna expect a lot from, and he's one that's gonna meet the standard every single day. He's done that for the most part this spring.
Do you anticipate the freshmen playing a lot this season, and what do you need to see out of them to tell you that they are ready for that?
Yeah, I think you always got to coach those guys and prepare them as if they're gonna go. I think you got to treat that in the sense of like these guys we got to play now. Some will be able to handle the learning curve, some won't. I think ultimately those guys got to be able to handle a certain capacity, whether that be volume with how many reps, whether that be a mental capacity and how much I can retain and be able to put information and apply it on the field. I think that's both physical and mental, but that's what you want to see to show that, hey, this guy's ready. Because ultimately, you don't want them thinking on game day. You want those guys being able to play natural. So the evidence in practice that you want to see is being able to handle a certain volume physically and then the capacity mentally to where they can go play and be natural.
Kelsey, I fully understand you got to coach the guys that are in your room, but you only have 7 once Joe Kim gets here. What's the perfect number for scholarship guys in a room?
I think that's hard to say. I think it really depends on your room. Sometimes 11 is a perfect number. Sometimes 7 is a perfect number. I think that depends on the room. I think that's something you got to assess daily, your group and the depth and what you need. You got to assess that daily, and obviously at the end of spring, you got to go attack those needs wherever they are. But I think it just kind of depends on the room.
Nico said during the break that him and Mike Matthews were able to connect a little bit in California. How much do you think that extra time they spent together has helped Mike Matthews take that next step in spring?
I think that extra time always helps build camaraderie. That stuff is always beneficial. It's always good. And anytime, those two positions work closely together, anytime you can spend extra time, that just helps time and it helps the relationship. Like those things benefit us a ton. So as much extra time as those guys can get together out of the building, it helps us a huge, hell of a lot.
You were talking about mental capacity, workload, how much guys can handle. Do you coach a young group differently? And how do you do more parts instead of the whole? How do you get a young group ready to play from a mental standpoint, without overloading them?
I think mentally as a coach, it's our responsibility to know learning styles, right? Some guys learn kinesthetically. They want to walk through it, jog through it, go through it. That's how they get it. Some guys learn visually, right? Others learn audibly, right? But you got to know what learning style that guy has, and you got to attack him in that learning style. So I don't think, young guy, you ask, I don't think there's a one-size-fit-all. You got to kind of learn the kid, right? You got to be able to know his learning style and then create a standard based on that learning style and just work that plan every single day.
Kelsey, we talked to Chris earlier this spring. He talked about wanting to finish more after last season, and he said he would kind of maybe beat himself up on the plays he didn't make. How do you handle a guy like that to try to build up his confidence mentally to get him to sort of move past bad plays and good plays too?
Yeah, I think for one, you got to observe, and then you got to be intentional, right? The reason I say observe is because, you got to see when he's beating himself up, and it's more of a softer voice, reaffirming him, giving him confidence. You got to see times when he may not be as hard on himself as he needs to, and in those moments, I'm challenging him. So observing first, and then once I'm intentional, whatever I decide based on scenario, like this time I'm challenging him because he may not be as urgent. The next time I'm giving him confidence, telling him you're all right, reaffirming him because I see him beating himself up. So I think it's a case where you got to know who that guy is, right? You got to know, their habits and, their history, and you got to pay attention to it, observe, and then be intentional. He's done a better job. He's got a ways to go. He's done a better job than last year, but he knows he's got a ways to go in that area. Because ultimately, I think when he does that right, he'll help us a ton.
Coach, how much different is your job on the field with this group? When you lose a Brew and Dante and Squirrel, guys have been here forever, when you don't have as much leadership, how does your job change?
Yeah, it's a good question. You got to implement it, right? Like, when you got older guys, a lot of times before I coached guys up, Brew or Dante or Sed or Hyatt, when they were here, they were going to coach guys up, right? I think now, you got to recreate the standard because a lot of these guys haven't been here to see it, okay? So you got to recreate that standard and almost set the example at times. And then as time continues to go and they see it enough, they'll eventually follow and be able to follow in those same steps.
What are some of the promising qualities that you've seen early in spring practice?
Give me that first word again, I'm sorry.
What are some of those promising qualities that you've seen out of Rodarius Jackson and Travis Smith to start spring?
The first thing that stands out is those guys want to be good. Those guys, even when they don't always do things right on the field, they're back in the building trying to, correct things before we get to meetings. They're constantly with our G and our QC asking questions on their own. Those are guys that I don't have to ask them to come back in the building. They're in the building on their own. I think that's an important quality because even when I need to get better, typically kids like that, they'll find a way to develop. Like you can develop them because it's important to them. And they show that by being in the building and wanting to correct things every single day. So those are two freshmen that I think are very headstrong because even when they have tough days, they keep the same approach. They're not letting their emotions and feelings and ego get in the way of them getting better and developing. And so when I think about those two guys, that's the first thing that stands out. And they're pushing each other, which is always good.
What do you like about Amari Jefferson that you wanted to bring him in the room, and what is he, showing this spring and what he's been able to do?
Obviously, Amari, he played at a separate school in this league. So he's got some experience with kind of how the lay of the land goes. He's a great kid. Like, he's awesome for the room. He's always going to come in the room with a good personality, good work ethic, smile on his face. For him, the transition is going to be learning what we do, kind of how fast we play and operate. That'll be something for him this spring to really keep honing in on to get ready for the fall. Thank you.